Now recognizes Mr. Hamadeh of Arizona for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. As we look at ways of strengthening our defense industrial base, one thing is clear: a backlog of unfulfilled foreign military sales is not just a paperwork issue, it's a national security problem. I faced these challenges during my time as an Army Reserve intelligence officer facilitating our military sales in Saudi Arabia. Delays in delivering critical defense systems to our allies undermine our ability to deter enemies, strengthen partnerships, and sustain our own domestic defense industry. At the same time, adversaries like China have streamlined their arms export processes, leveraging speed and influence to expand their global footprint. The U.S. must do better. We cannot afford bottlenecks and bureaucratic inertia in an era of strategic competition. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today on how we can accelerate our production, cut red tape, and ensure a defense industrial base is not just responsive, but proactive in meeting both the United States and our allied defense needs. Now, my first question is for Mr. Fanning. My understanding is that after the cancellation of the Future Attack Reconnaissance Aircraft program, we did not divert resources to continue Apache acquisitions. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you know why that was?
I don't.
Now, Boeing's Apache productions in Arizona is at risk. If the DoD doesn't commit to a minimum order of 12 or so helicopters, the production line could be shut down, putting 5,000 Phoenix area jobs on the line. Now, that's not just bad for Arizona's economy. It sends the wrong message to our allies, and our foreign partners won't invest in a platform if they think the U.S. military is moving on from that platform. Now, how do we ensure our domestic acquisition policies stay consistent, both with our long-term defense plans and the needs of our allies who rely on these systems?
Congressman, thanks for that question. That sort of hits at the crux of, I think, what we're talking about today, which is sending not just a clear signal to our allies, but to the industrial base, so that it invests its money in the facilities, in the workforce, in the supply chain, so they can meet the needs of the Department of Defense. And so that, if I had one single headline for what we need for the defense industrial base, it is that clear, consistent, and sufficient demand signal so that the industrial base and the private capital that supports it can line up for DoD requirements.
And how do delays in the foreign military sales impact your members' companies?
Well, it's a frustration all the way around. I mean, as I said in my oral statement, last year, for the first time, foreign military sales and direct military sales exceeded what the Department of Defense spends on military equipment and RDT&E. That's American jobs. That brings down the price for the Department of Defense. That's interoperability. That binds our allies closer with us over a longer period of time. We want to make sure that the wrong people aren't getting our stuff. And you, with the administration, decides that. But if the answer is yes, we want to get there quickly. Our allies want to buy our kit, our stuff, and we make it as hard as can be for them to do that. If the answer is no, we should get there quickly as well. So one of our top priorities at AIA is trying to reform and streamline that system. So it meets the intent of making sure bad actors in the world don't get the stuff that we produce, but we ought to be bringing our allies along faster and making sure that we're not disincentivizing them in anything we do to buy someplace else. Oftentimes I see people, it's a pocket veto system. We have got to switch the default to yes. People make their case, or they don't make their case and move forward, because there are other places that countries can go to buy hardware.
Mr. Norquist, do you have anything to add?
Oh, yes, sir. A couple of things. First of all, in our membership surveys, 55% said foreign military sales and domestic commercial sales were either very or extremely important to the company, creates jobs in the U.S., but it also empowers our allies to defend themselves. You asked for recommendations on change. I'll give you three. First of all, Defense and State had looked at FMS reforms, but they haven't finalized or been executing on that. So getting them to finalize those FMS reforms and then begin to execute them would be essential, and then reporting back. There's also an issue with the ability to switch to direct commercial sales. In many cases, direct commercial sales can go faster, and that's actually within the control of the department to say, this should move as an FMS case. As it move as a direct commercial sale, that will go faster. And the last is to build on what Eric said. There have been reviews about the interagency process. It's very slow and sequential, and trying to accelerate that, and that was per Section 918 of your NDAA, pushing them to bring that to closure is very helpful. So those are three ones, what you talked about.
Thank you, Mr. Norcross. I'm sure my staff will be in communication with you to tackle this problem that I see is really pressing, especially when our allies now are no longer purchasing our equipment and seeking elsewhere. Thank you, Chairman.